Watkins Glen has seen it all. Formula One, IndyCar, and NASCAR have all driven amongst the powder blue walls. But perhaps one of the lesser appreciated and most historic races of this track is the 6 Hours of the Glen, in which sports cars take to the tarmac. While it won't be that long of a race today, it's still quite a nice fit to see prototypes and GT cars line up on the grid. We'll see who best handles the high speeds and tight confines of one of America's most beloved road course venues as we get ready to watch round 5 of the Autobahn Motorcar Group's Sports Car Challenge. And you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth covering the LMP1 and LMP2 classes is Bill Soup Zahn. Keeping us up on the GTE class is Taylor Burris. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Crackers Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Taylor, any of our NASCAR fans probably aren't as familiar with this longer layout here, so why don't you give the audience the lowdown on the Glen's boot course?
Of course, and welcome everyone to Watkins Glen International. This opened up in 1956. This 3.4 mile or 5.5 kilometer track, 11 turns, is one of the famous places for the 6 Hours of Watkins Glen. This track is just full of twists and turns. You never know what to expect. Got to be careful with watching out. There's nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. You just have to be smooth as you can be, especially for lap traffic. To give you guys, the viewers, the opportunity to see what it's like to go through this Watkins Glen track, including the boot section, let's take you on board for a GSRC lap guide.
All right, we've got Taylor Burris and the GSRC 4 GT, so let's do a lap around Watkins Glen. Down into the 90, this is a great place to pass, but with the downhill braking, you've really got to be careful not to overshoot it. While you've got a lot of paved runoff, if you kill your speed on the exit, you're going to pay for it by the time you hit the backstretch. Even though the S's are pretty much a single file affair, it's still easily flat out, so the drivers behind will be catching a huge draft on you all the way up the hill. Once you hit the backstretch, they're likely going to be closing in quickly, and if they've timed it right, you could be helpless. The real danger isn't just in losing a spot, it's the fact that the next time you brake, it's for the inner loop. This chicane is notorious for wreaking havoc when cars go side by side. It's best if you sort it out by the time you're navigating through here. That then throws you directly into the carousel. This long banked bend requires quite a bit of patience so that you don't understeer your way into the Armco. Then, before you know it, you've got to switch sides to set up for the chute. When it comes to corners you don't want to overcook, this one ranks pretty high up there. There's no place to save it on the outside except for just plowing into the tires. As we come to the lowest part of the course, you'll be braking for the toe of the boot. You might see some passes here if someone catches a good run on their opponent. But as you can see, the best way through is to give yourself a nice late apex and confidently apply the power. This steep uphill climb is going to punish anyone who hesitates by sucking up all of their speed. Because of that, this run to the heel of the boot often sees pass attempts. Now, they don't always go off, but you've got to have your head on a swivel depending on who's behind you. After that, you hit what I consider the toughest corner of the track, turn 9. It's got a crested turn-in, it's off camber, and the barriers on the exit are very, very close. No matter which way you lose it, it's likely you'll be catching damage. Then, into the penultimate turn, drivers will need a big lift and a fair amount of accuracy to carry speed through it. That takes us to the final corner, where it's almost like a street course. Understeer and you'll be digging your car out of the tires. But hopefully, if you've kept it all together, you've now finished a lap around Watkins Glen. There you see in the GTE cars, a bit of a long lap still, but it's going to be so much quicker. And the prototypes with all their downforce. Now, we have 4 rounds finished, and we are now to the 5th, which is where the drop weeks will soon be included, but not quite yet. So let's go to Bill with the points.
And that's going to change stuff up when that happens. Syondra for Wyvern Racing Silver, still winless. Best result was a second last round at Road America. How about Jason DeVries for TMC Carbon? He has a pair of wins, but a pair of poor results when those drop races that Joe was just talked about start to be accounted for. That's going to help deep freeze out. TNT Racing Gold's Robert Tinsey. Well, his only podium was a win in the season opener. Daniel Graldi for SRN Motorsports Black, doing what he does, just get the car home, score points. TNT Puffins, Daniel Benefit rounds out the graphic. Let's go ahead and look in the LMP2 class, where, like Syondra in the LMP1, Scott McGarvey proves you don't need to win to lead the class. A pair of seconds and a pair of thirds is all that's needed for SRN Motorsports Black driver to lead those points. 3 wins and a 12th is only good enough for second for Jason Girard. Drops again are going to help him when they start to be counted. The only other winner other than Girard is Autobahn West, Billy Smith. For Wyvern Racing Reds, Carter Kundinger, his third last time out was his best result this season. And TNT Racing Carbon's Jason Lundy holds station in 5th. Let's go to the GTE standings. And finally, a point leader with a win, be it only one, and that was in the season opener, Paul Oh My Darling for TNT Racing Carbon. With Darling having no finish worse than 5th, Stephen McGarvey and Alex Ellis are way back. However, Magic Alex for Wyvern Racing Red missed a race. Another driver is going to benefit with drop races coming in. Dean Mull for SRN Motorsports Orange returns to the overlay thanks to a 5th at Road America. And the Comet has been kind of streaky so far this season. Look for Bradley Haley for Positive Sim Racing to move up the charts. We're going to go to the GTE AM standings real quick, where Kevin Santana sits 6th overall. The Autobahn West driver better be careful or he's going to risk his AM status. A 20th for Paul Lindsay last time out drops him from the lead. TNT Emmanuel Ijere has three 10th, get this, a 3 10th place finishes, 10th, 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 and a no-show. Nice job for Ijere. And Scott Corbin and fan favorite Jimbo Pfeiffer sit 4th and 5th. The last one, I'm almost done. We go to the team standings. No winner anywhere for SRN Motorsports Black, Ralty, McGarvey, or Huff. Nevertheless, they sit 47 points up on TNT Racing Golds with Robert Tinsey doing the heavy lifting there. You know, if the big cheats, John Ulmer, can start scoring some points, Billy Smith and Kevin Santana are doing really well. Look out for Autobahn Motorsports West to make a run if the big cheese can get going. TNT Carbon and SRN Motorsports Orange both are up big, 2 and 3 points respectively. Okay, Joe, it's starting to shape up.
Yeah, been a bit of a bizarre season for sure so far on the points. Like Bill said, things should look a little bit more normal once we get those drop weeks in. Now, if you've never watched an Autobahn race before, why don't we go through the race details and tell you what this is all about. We are in Season 7 now. Like I said, we're at round 5 of 14, and you see those 2 little droplets? Well, that stands for the 2 drop weeks that they will have, and they will start being counted after this round. Today's race is actually a sprint race. 60 minutes is shorter than the 90-minute races that they run a few times throughout the season for their long ones. And the setups are open on these cars, very important, especially in those LMP1 cars, which are so sensitive to how you set them up. But you see that restricted fuel, that means you can expect a single pit stop here today at Watkins Glen. Although the LMP1s have been a bit thirsty this season, we'll see if they can make it on a track that is a lot of flat-out racing for them. Incident cap, it is not at 36 today, it's actually at 24. So the drivers at 24 incidents will be DQ'd. They do not have a fast repair, so it is very imperative that you keep a clean car and keep it on track.
Andy and Jackson in the graphic department, no lunch for them tomorrow.
Well, someone who will be getting lunch most likely is one of our best commentators here on the Global SimRacing Channel, Taylor Burris, who likes to give us the keys to the race so that we can be aware of what some of the things are to look out for on who could potentially win. Taylor, what about today?
Well, today, this track, even though it's such a large track, this place, there's nowhere to run, nowhere to hide pretty much with its tight corners, especially going up through the S's. We've seen time and time again in professional racing where just one small mistake can cause a major pileup in the S's. Same could happen here tonight if drivers are not careful. So they need to be alert and watch out for those spaces to be open, make sure they hit their marks, and get through those carnage when happening during the race. Another place to watch out for is the 90-degree corner here at Turn 1. It's an excellent place to make passes, also a place where mistakes can happen where you overshoot the corner. Also, drivers will need to be careful. These LMP1 cars, they're pretty much going to be flying through this course, flat-footing almost in some parts of the track. So these GTE drivers and LMP2 drivers need to be alert as always, especially on this track. So Joe, Watkins Glen will be a challenge in ways you never thought here tonight.
Yeah, it's such a unique circuit, especially nowadays in the world of road racing, that the way that they lay out tracks, the types of corners that you put in, you don't see many like Watkins Glen anymore. Now, Qualifying is still ongoing, even though we see very few cars on track. And if you're wondering about that, I know many of you have heard this before. If so, then I guess now's a good time to go grab a snack from the fridge. But this is the last chance qualifying. Each of the classes have their own separate qualifying for 15 minutes so that they don't trip over slower classes. If you can't make your allotted time, well, that's what the last chance qualifying is for. However, you can't step foot in this qualifying, can't put a car on the track unless you haven't put a single lap in your allotted qualifying time. This is Jimbo Pfeiffer we're watching right now out there. Chris Pence is also trying to get a time in. And then I believe Bradley Haley and Jimbo Pfeiffer, the only other two that are currently out on track. So with 4 minutes left to go, you know, one thing that you said that struck me as interesting, Bill, is talking about Ulmer needing to get points. He did have his first podium of the season last round, we should say. So he is looking at slightly better form. But, yeah, I have to imagine he's going to have to do a little bit better if they want that team championship, which is very valuable to these guys.
It's been a slow start. And again, we don't want to pound this point home, but drop races are going to change stuff up a lot here when drivers. There have been a lot of guys who have struggled. Probably the biggest name, the name that was really conspicuous by his absence, was Jeffrey Ooms. Didn't even mention him when doing the points. He's the defending champion. He's awesome, but he has just had some horrendous finishes. So right now he sits second in the GTEs and in the qualifying. Look for him to have a big day. He certainly needs it.
Well, another one that you need to keep in mind is Giuliano Romagnolo. Very similar season for him, too. He had his first finish that was higher than 20th in the last round. Before that, 20th was the highest he was able to do. It's not been the greatest times of him, for him, I should say. Now, speaking of drivers not having a good time, I understand we have a penalty for one of our top drivers. Taylor, what's going on there?
Well, after looking into it a little bit, it turns out that Alex Simonik got a 15-point penalty due to the fact that he decided to switch manufacturers in the middle of the season. Usually we saw him running in the Porsche the first 4 rounds, but here tonight at Watkins Glen, he decided to switch to the blue oval of the Ford GT. So who knows, maybe it might have been a difference of performance that he thought it would have suited better here at this track. Only time will really tell, but as we look at right now, the qualifying for GTE, he currently sits on the pole position in that Ford.
Yes, the penalty for switching makes of cars is obviously to try and deter drivers from gaming the system, since unlike real life, you don't have to pay a whole lot for each car. Just $15 gets you in the cockpit, and once you own them, I mean, you can switch between them throughout the season. So they are locked in. They do get, I believe, one change at some point in the season. I don't know if that, I'll have to double check to see if that rule has changed, but clearly he has fallen afoul, Alex has, of that one. Just 2 minutes left to go in qualifying, and we're watching to see if anything is going to change. But looking up at the LMP1s, it does not look good for De Vries to take another win if Cy Andra can stay out of trouble today.
Oh, there is no making predictions up in the LMP, and who knows what's going to happen up here. Tinsey sitting in for JC Lyons has a win already. He's down there in fourth. Let's go anyway. There is no clue. It is loaded up there too.
Yeah, but I'm looking at that half-second difference between Andra and De Vries. I know that traffic plays a bigger part, but that's why I say, you know, it's whether or not Cy can really keep his car clean. It seems to be one of his trouble points this season early on, although he's had a win on his plate, or excuse me, had some good finishes on his plate, I should say. Looking down through the fields, there is a lot, and I mean a lot, of GTE cars for you to cover this race, Taylor. And with a lot of cars comes always the worry of the S's on the first lap. That's really tight and narrow, and there's no place to go if there's a wreck there.
No, indeed. One small mistake, even one car into the wall can cause a major incident through the S's. So hopefully these drivers will be a little bit smart through the first few minutes of the race. It is an hour race. Yes, it is considered a sprint race, but still, 1 hour in a car on this track, it may seem like forever for some of these drivers. So they need to just take their time, focus on the track, get their marks, and hopefully we can have a nice clean start tonight.
We're looking at potentially 45 cars to head out on track. Thankfully, one of the longer laps we have here during the season. at Watkins Glen with them running the full boot layout. We saw Bradley Haley for a second, I guess, giving up on the rest of his qualifying. He puts his car at third on the grid. So nice job by him to finally get his season going. As Bill mentioned, just not been the results we're used to seeing from him. The twice runner-up in this GTE class. Well, it used to be GTD in the GT3 cars. It has now switched over to a little bit faster vehicle. Checkered flag is now out on qualifying, so just finishing up the hot laps. You had something, Bill?
Yeah, don't worry, Joe. I'll call it GT3s before the night's done. So just out of nostalgic sake. So
you have a few times today.
Yeah, you know who's missing is Jason Girard in the LMP2's not here today. So that's going to give a chance. Maybe Scott McGarvey gets his first win.
Keep an eye on it. We were talking about that before the broadcast. That Scott's got the pole at the moment, unless Chris Pence topples him, but that doesn't look likely since Chris is a couple seconds down at the moment, and this is his last chance to try and get a lap in. And I think I saw him maybe screw up the start of the lap anyways. Yep, he's just going to abandon it, so that's going to be it for him. And then our last car to come across the line is going to be Jimbo Pfeiffer in his Martini liveried Porsche. Very appropriate. So as he comes across, currently sitting a little bit down the order at the moment in 17th in class. Looks like he's not going to improve on that. So with that, let's go through our starting grid. Starting off with the LMP1 class, Andra, like we said, is going to start in first with Jason DeVries flanking him on the front row. Robert Tinsey, who seems to have found pace in qualifying at least, hasn't had pace in the races so far this season, despite his good points haul so far. Will start third. Jesse Lyon, one of our winners so far this season, will start fourth. Brandon Garcia will be fifth with John Ulmer starting P6. Then you've got Mike Young starting seventh and Mark Wilson starting eighth. A small field today in the LMP1s. Only 9 cars. Lionel Duprat, the last of them to take the green. Bill?
Not that much bigger than the LMP2s. Only 11 there. Scott McGarvey. Yeah, he's going to be on the pole, but man, it's only by 1/100th of a second over Billy Smith II. Carter Kundinger is going to be third ahead of Ross Booth, Sheldon Rosenblum. Jason Lundy, he's on the top 5. Let's see if he can stay there after today. James Stacy, Mark Schindel, Sean Reese, Alan Hasebeck, and Chris Pence sits 20th overall, 11th in class. Let's go to Taylor, talk about the GTEs.
Starting on your front row in the GTE class is Alex Simonix in that number 254 GT. He'll be starting right beside Jeffrey Ohms, starting P2 in GTE. 428 car of Bradley Haley will be starting third place, with Giuliano Romagnolo starting fourth in class. Right behind his teammate is Alex Ellis starting in the 5th position, along with Kevin Santana. Stephen McGarvey and Dean Mole will be starting 28th and 29th in the overall position, along with Paul Darling and Paul Lindsay, 30 and 31st position. Ryan Huff and Dave Hill will come home and starting in the 32nd and 33rd, with Leif Peterson and starting 34th and David Henry starting 35th. Shane Hunter and Emmanuel Igiri will start 36th and 37th overall, with Jimbo Pfeiffer and Samuel Scott in 38th and 39th. Dino Topic, along with Tim McLeish, will start 40th and 41st, with Patrick Flemings, Matt Owens, Mark Kradowski, Dale Green, and Robert Schlenko rounding out the rest of your field.
Poor Taylor got a mouthful there as we wait for the cars to take off on the pace lap. And the good news is the pace car driver remembered to show up today. So we've had that happen twice, that he failed to get himself out onto the grid. And thankfully, we've had a very well-behaved field that just ran their pace lap and got the race started on their own. It's just about a little bit left to go. We're waiting on Shane Hunter and I think Dennis Savretic to get out there. And it looks like they are out. So the Mustang pace car taking off and leading them away down into the 90, as Taylor mentioned, one of the popular places to pass. Other one probably be on the backstretch, heading up towards the inner loop with the way that they have that braking zone into there, and also the draft leading up to it. Pretty much flat out for all 3 makes of cars up to that backstretch.
The inner loop really takes the starch out of the carousel. Without that inner loop there, that carousel, that's fun. Turn number 9 here, though. That's the one I hate.
Yeah, I'm with you there, Bill. I can never get it right in any car I've driven it in. You see them heading up through the powder blue walls towards that backstretch, and this should give you a good idea of just how close they are on either side. In fact, there's a couple portions here that they are basically right next to the track. There you can see in the tunnel turn where you have no room and no place to go off track to try and avoid any sort of incident. By now, the LMP1s already have gotten to that inner loop. Not just a place to pass, though, Taylor, a place that a lot of tangles and a lot of car contact tends to happen.
Yes, indeed. Down and towards the chute and into the boot, a lot of cars can get really loose through that section if you don't place your car right, and a lot of incidents can happen to where they will hit those powder blue walls.
You know, there's a lot of left-right or right-left combinations here, too, which makes it harder for a back marker or the slower class to get out of the way, because eventually you have to come across the track, and sometimes your racing line's not always that well defined where it actually is time to come across the track.
And we've seen this year, really the big difference in all three classes as far as the winners seems to be more about that traffic management, that drivers who are able to handle weaving in and out of the cars with the speed differences tend to get the better results.
Yeah, the new faster classes really changed things up a bit from what we've had before. They're starting to get the hang of it. Not nearly quite as bad as it was early on. They're catching on.
I agree. I think things have been cleaning up. We've been getting exciting races all season long, though, as we watch them climb up in the boot section towards the heel. One of the other tricky turns that I never feel like I quite get perfectly right. And then we come to that dreaded turn 9. It's off camber. It's got a crest on the entry. And once again, very narrow coming out of it. You're going to see just how narrow as the cameras switch over to show us. Yeah, look at that. Once again, walls right on either side. But it's close to the end of the lap, so drivers better be ready at this point. These hybrid vehicles, these LMP1s, have proven tricky for drivers to handle. Even the fastest of the drivers in this series have admitted it's hard to get their head around how to get the most speed out of them and their systems. So, as the Mustang pace car peels off, it's now given control to Jason DeVries. Green flag waves and he accelerates away. Control given to Cy Andra. DeVries follows him as Jesse Lyon trying to battle with Robert Tinsley. Tinsley's going to have the inside down into the 90. He'll take the third away from Jesse Lyon, who now looks like he might lose it to Ulmer. Let's go to the LMP2s.
Stephen McGarvey's leaving a huge gap between the LMP1s and the LMP2s. Just getting on the throttle now. He's being challenged on the outside by Billy Smith. I think this is going to settle down. Let's see how they go through the 90. Oh, my goodness, Smith is really putting up a fight. They still say side by side. And let's stay on it for just a minute. Sorry, Taylor, we're going to go to. We got to see if these guys get it sorted out. They remain side by side. Let's go to the GTEs.
Down into the 90 we go. It is Alex Simonix that pulls away. Jeffrey slides into second. Bradley Haley was able to get into the third position, followed by the two Wyvern drivers of Simonic and Ellis. Nice smooth start for these GTE drivers. We almost got 3 wide between McGarvey, Santana, and Darling, though, through the S's. They need to check up a little bit. Watch out as they head down towards the inner loop.
Finally, McGarvey clears it. They were side by side with Billy Smith for half the lap. They get it sorted out after the inner loop. My goodness.
Oh, trouble in the inner loop. We have, looks like Dean Mole gets loose in the inner loop and then makes contact. Looks like he's able to get his car rolling now, but still unfortunate for Dean Mole in the inner loop.
Oof, a lot of action happening on the first race because we didn't even get to cover as that was happening. Excuse me, real quickly, Jason DeVries took the lead away on the backstretch, and now that might swap yet again because here comes Cy Andra around the outside, but can he keep the momentum up? Looks like for now he will, and actually carries a lot of momentum to give himself a nice little gap. Oh, wow. And now suddenly he's being sucked back in as Jason DeVries doing exactly what he did last lap and retakes the lead.
But a major incident, though, going into the boot of the track between Kradowski, Igiri, Tino Topic, and it looks like also Jimbo Pfeiffer, multiple cars.
Wow. we talked about things calming down a little bit, and they go and prove us wrong as we continue to watch the top two battle. I talked about those hybrid systems, Bill, and to me that looks a lot like Jason DeVries has got a little something better sussed out than Syandra does.
Absolutely. Got a little bit of a plan there going on, but that's okay. Andrekin, there's a long race to go. I got to take you to the leaders of the LMP2s. McGarvey and Smith were side by side for the first half of the lap. I couldn't even leave it. I had to get back to Taylor so we could look at the start of the GTEs. Now McGarvey's cleared it. He opened up a big gap. Billy Smith has ran him down, and they have 2 seconds back to Ross Booth.
So as we watch these two battle, and Ross Booth continues to fall away, Billy Smith is really going to want to do something, because one thing we've seen this season is even if Scott McGarvey doesn't have a win yet, he is deadly consistent. His bad days just don't seem to exist. He's almost Dixon-esque in the way he just gets results all season long. Right now, Billy Smith holding down that second position. Doesn't have an opportunity yet, but we've jumped back to the GTEs, Taylor. Looks like Ellis and Romagnolo with a fight.
Yes, it is, and they brought in McGarvey and Darling, too. 4 cars battling for the 4th position. Looks like Ellis gets hard onto the brakes. Oh, as we got almost a little contact with McGarvey.
Syandra just had an off. Can we get to that one? This is the mistake that we're talking about. It was in the inner loop. My goodness, I don't know how he didn't lose it.
And they've already caught the back of the field. Let's see if we can pull that. Looks like we won't have the replay, but yeah, that was a monster catch. We'll have to... Oh, it looks like we found it. This was about a minute ago. So as we pull that up, I'm actually kind of stunned that he grabbed that car with the way it was sideways in one of the trickiest parts of the course.
Yeah, I thought he was gone. I saw it live and I just had to speak up. I thought he was in the wall. This is an amazing catch. You don't get these cars that sideways.
Look at this from the chopper view. Wow. And went through the grass, came back on, and did not lose a position. He's still in second. I should report that John Ulmer also had an off and was not so lucky. He lost third. He's now down to 5th. Tenzie and Lyon snuck by. As we switch over to first and the LMP2s. Actually, we might want to go a little bit farther back because James Stacy has had a big accident with Sean Reese just now.
Yeah.
This was coming out of the heel of the boot.
What happened was Stacy got the car off in the grass, and they got loose right in front of poor Reese. Sean had nowhere to go.
And this is an extremely hard hit for both cars. You're going to see a lot of damage. Oof. Yeah, both of them lose the nose cone. One has to get completely turned around just to get going once again. But they're both back out on track. James Stacy has elected to come into the pits for a very early stop. This is easily going to be a 2-stopper for him now today.
Oh, my goodness. Syandra has caught right back up. Syandra's quick. Right back up to DeVries.
Remember, he took the pole, so we know he has 1-lap pace. And again, we've missed most of them dealing with the traffic at this point.
Oh, and there's going to be a ton of traffic, and it's going to happen early because Scott McGarvey led a huge gap between the LMP1 and LMP2s. And then there's so many GTEs to go through. There's 24 of them.
The GTEs, that battle for 4th that we looked at earlier, seems to have come back on. This is Ellis and Romagnolo. Remember, Romagnolo looking to get as many good results as he can.
Yes, indeed, as they go down through the outer loop of Turn 5, making their way towards the chute. Not close enough to make a pass at the moment, but still, Romagnolo looking for that opportunity for Ellis to make that small mistake as they enter into the boot. Turn 6 and Turn 7 heading up towards the toe. Not enough of a close to make a pass as he looks to the inside. Not close enough, but gains a little bit of time as they come out of the toe of the boot.
Yeah, great exit there from Ellis, coming off of his first win here in the GTEs in that light blue Porsche. Down into the braking. Romagnolo's going to have to wait another time, but don't forget behind him, look at that red Ferrari of Paul Darling stalking both of them. looking for an opportunity.
Yeah, Paul Darling, his only win being at Daytona the first part of the season, had some ups and downs throughout the rest of the season, needing to get some good finishes here.
Let's go to Leif Peterson. It happened as I'm speaking, so just 15 seconds ago, John Ulmer was coming up behind him. Leif, car number 39, racing 32nd overall right now. The car went around, and he's in the wall, happened right in front of John Ulmer. This one was close. The LMP1's going through the GTEs. It is chaos, man.
Gonna watch the replay. Here's the Autobahn East drivers coming through the penultimate. Let's see as now we've caught up to him. And
it was right in front of John Ulmer, and just what these LMP1 drivers are doing, it is crazy.
Yeah, they are certainly weaving in and out. In fact,
let's go to Cy Honda right at this very minute. He got into lap traffic, and he got into the back of the yellow car of Bradley Haley as I speak.
Oof. Man, the green machine of Bradley Haley has just not been having a good season. This sets him well back into 8th in class. Look at that from the onboard. Just caught it in time. Andra almost shoving him around, probably accidentally. Well, definitely accidentally. We know these guys wouldn't intentionally try to turn one another. There's the TV view.
So Andra falls back to 6th now, Joe. You called it.
De Vries showing that he has figured out how to deal with the traffic almost better than anybody else, including the car behind him right now, Robert Tinsey, who earned the nickname Bob the Blade because he's so good in traffic, just can't seem to gun down Deep Freeze.
And Andra brings the car in the pits. Boy, I think this is not in the window.
Oh, no, it's way, way too early. Even if he was using a lot of battery for the rest of the race to try and save on fuel, I do not think he'll be able to run this to the end. There we see Tinsey working his way through the inner loop with one of the few places of open track for now. Back in the GTEs, the podium up for grabs. Oh, and
contact.
That was Ellis that we just saw get turned around in the inner loop by another one of the LMP1s. That was Duprat who got into the side of him. We mentioned that the inner loop could be a dangerous place, and it's hard enough within your class, but when you have multi-class trying to work their way through there, you can see how it goes awry.
Just
like a bit of net code, though.
Yeah, it does look like that a little bit, but just that small bit of contact, and it sends Alex down the race to the rest of the field. So he's got a lot of catch-up to do now.
Yes, he does. We haven't checked on the LMP2s in a while, and, well, there's a few battles throughout, but the one that interests me the most is the one that we saw at the start of the race. McGarvey and Smith continue to stretch away. 4 seconds between themselves and Booth, but only a second between first and second place.
But it's going to get interesting here in a minute as they come up on behind Leif Peterson and Emmanuel Jere. Let's see how this works here. McGarvey's going to be able to get the run, get this done quickly. Right behind is Billy Smith. Boy, Emmanuel, they do a good job of getting out of the way. Scott got him at the perfect place, and meanwhile, Billy Smith gets caught as he can't get around.
Yep. Oh, and he's going to have to force them to go a little bit wide. That was the car of Robert Sklanka letting them through as well, who's off the pace at the moment. Emmanuel and Leif continue their fight, but Scott McGarvey stretches himself just about a tenth farther ahead of Billy Smith.
But don't worry, what comes around goes around. Soon McGarvey will get stuck behind somebody.
And Taylor, you've noticed something that happens with Reese here?
Yeah, I'm looking at him right now. He's just stopped in the middle of the S's on the outside lane.
It's been there a long time.
Yeah, it's been there for a couple of laps. I don't know what the issue is. But this is not a good thing. He needs to either just get this car towed or something, because this can be a serious incident that happens. So I don't know what's going on, if it's connection issues or some other form, but
Well, it looks like his pit limiter is on because that's what those blinking lights are at the back. I'm not entirely sure what's going on there.
Yeah, so this is a very dangerous for our drivers who are going through this S's. If they, I mean, thankfully he's way out of the racing group, but still, this could cause serious implications if no one's not paying attention.
Might be a bad joke here, but I hope he's okay physically where he is. It makes you kind of worry.
Hope so too. Meanwhile, Simonic and Ooms battle for the lead in the GTEs. Ooms has been stalking him. He needs to turn his season around, and it hasn't always been his fault, we should say, that he's had the bad results that he's had.
Yes, indeed. Ooms has been trying to work his way through the field, but just has bad results week after week. That last time by, Ooms was actually faster than Simonics, so looks like lap traffic is helping him a little bit as far as with the LMP1 cars working their way through, causing him to slow as he gets a nice run down through the inner loop. Slowly but surely closing in on this 250 Ford GT of Simonic.
And these two have really put some times in because it's 10 seconds back to third place Giuliano Romagnolo. They are destroying the field, and it's only 15 minutes in. We're only a quarter of the way into the race. Some of that may have been traffic, but even still.
Yeah. This is Mike Young in third position, being chased by John Ulmer. Now, this gets hot, this gets cold, depending on where they catch traffic right now. I think Young might actually be faster than Ulmer, but not as good when they get into traffic. It's opened up a little bit, so now maybe Mike can stretch his legs up to about a second.
One thing we've seen, Bill, is that the LMP1s seem to be sensitive to damage. And remember, Ulmer had a little off track very early. Wonder if maybe some of the under tray, maybe it's just not in good condition and slowing him down?
Yeah, that could easily be.
In fact, look at this. Guarcia, the 911, is coming up behind him, and it's looking like this might be easy work in a second.
That's Alan Hasebeck they're trying to get around.
Looks like he's going to get that easily as Hasebeck stays out of the racing line. Up the hill, a little bit more traffic in the form of Ijere. And looks like Sheldon Rosenbaum as well up ahead of them.
I'm telling you, when DeVries and Andre were going through the GTEs, it looked like a game of Frogger. Remember Frogger? It was just that kind of just frantic type of weaving in and out. My gosh.
Oof. Oh, look at how far off Ulmer went. I think he put wheels in the grass again, coming out of turn 9 in an attempt to try and get back up to Mike Young, and it's actually kind of working so far. So, in the GTEs, I just noticed that the battle for the final podium position, Romagnolo may be 11 seconds back now, but he's got to worry about slipping farther down. Paul Darling has caught up to the back of him.
Yes,
He might demote him here in a second.
he might, but also he's got to worry about Stephen McGarvey and that Ferrari as well. McGarvey's been closing in lap after lap here recently, as McGarvey's been showing the faster pace right now, over a 10th faster than Paul Darling and multiple times faster than Romagnolo. So McGarvey might be the one to keep an eye on for this battle for the podium.
Season 5 champion in the GT1 class comes over to the GTEs. McGarvey trying to get himself some more good results so far this season. That's traffic behind them in the form of Cy Andra. Going to get them easily with it being an LMP1 car.
Nice if we can take our time here, watch a little racing, huh? Instead of jumping around. That's so erratic. Look at this.
We're going to get it because look at the run that Stephen McGarvey got on Paul Darling. Makes it look easy. He didn't even have to wait for the draft on the backstretch. He is by.
Excellent textbook pass. He had a nice run into the 90, coming off of it, and then of course just had that nice run going up through the S's and just look to the inside. Romagnolo getting a little loose through the inner loop. This is going to bring in McGarvey a little bit closer. Ran a 41 compared to Romagnolo's 64. As they head down to the chute, into the boot.
Right.
Nice, close racing.
Right on board the Ferrari of Darling, now demoted to 5th. Meanwhile, Ulmer has really caught up to Mike Young and is actually just behind these guys.
All traffic.
So they will have a lot of traffic actually on their hands.
Oh, look at this. They're coming up. This has all been because of traffic. Now, this is Young. That is Tinsey.
And that's who they're chasing for second place. Wow.
Tinsey got caught up behind these guys. Right behind him is Young. Here comes Ulmer. That's for second.
Three-way fight to decide the last spots on the podium as they work their way through the heel of the boot, now finally clear of all those cars. Up next ahead of them is going to be Dave Hill and Ross Booth. Coming down to the end of the lap. Wow, look at Mike Young gain.
Oh, it's big here. Dave, where are you going to put the car? They're coming, and there's 3 of them. 1, 2, 3.
Ooh, great defense from Robert Tinsey. He gets on the boost button, but not a good enough defense from Mike Young because John Ulmer takes a look around the outside. He's going to get a run. Wow, look at him go. Made it look like he was standing still, but this traffic gets thick in one of the narrowest parts. They all managed to get through there. Is it going to swing back in favor of Young? He's starting to regain on John Ulmer. They run out of track now as they break for the inner loop, all just in time, sneaking by Patrick Fleming. It is fast and furious.
Oh, and that was Alex Ellis trying to find a place to put the car. He almost confused Ulmer. Ulmer now with a good run on Tinsey as they come up behind Bradley Haley. Haley takes the wide side, leaves the inside open. Ulmer can go underneath him. There goes Young.
Doesn't get a good run, so that's going to settle down. We need to go to the battle for the lead over in the GTEs. Taylor, Simonik, and Ooms yet again.
Those two have been going at it. Ooms had a really good run through the boot, but out of turn 9, he just gets a little loose, unable to gain some time now, so Simonik is able to pull away again, this time by.
Third place in that class, too. Sorry to cut in.
You know, are you looking at Stephen McGarvey? It's brother versus brother here a second. As Scott just pushed, I think it was Scott just pushed his brother off in the grass.
That's going to be an interesting conversation.
Yeah, the dinner table is going to be a little tense. So, Stephen McGarvey loses a position that he was fighting hard with Paul Darling. He manages to sneak through. And in all that, we saw that battle for second in the LMP1s have to slice by.
Here we go. Paul Darling looks to the outside. On the back straightaway, side by side, Romagnolo. Darling into the inner loop. Darling, move him into the P3.
Nice move by Paul. These guys still 15 seconds back from the next car up, Jeffrey Ooms, in their class. I tell you what, we could probably fill about 5 broadcasts worth with all the action as we look at P2 and the LMP1s yet again.
Well, the guys we were looking at, the LMP1 guys just went through it of Tinsey, Ulmer, and Young. So now that goes back McGarvey, and Billy Smith is right there now through all the chaos. That have brought Smith right into the mix.
Excuse me, I may have heard the wrong class there, but yes, as Billy Smith continues to hound Scott McGarvey's number 64. Again, McGarvey has never finished off the podium this season in all 4 races. Oh, and Ross Booth! Ross Booth just had an off with Mark Schindel in the heel of the boot. And let's take a look at the replay. This looks like this one's on Schindel from what I can see, Bill.
Well, Schindel was trying for a twofer. He got around Stephen McGarvey, but then could not get the car wound up. First one went okay, but then kind of had just bullseye.
It looked like he missed his braking point with him being offline. Poor Ross Booth, very much the innocent victim. I can tell you, he's actually... Oh, wait, no, that's Mark Wilson. Similar painted car that he just let by. So we come back live now. I do think we might have a scheduled stop happening. Ryan Huff has come into the pits.
Oh, I
trying to see if I can spot any damage.
I need this to break up. This is just too intense.
Yeah, that looks like a scheduled stop to me. Car looks spick and span, so that Ford GT is off and away. The GTE class has a little bit of a wider window than the other two.
They should give style points if you race the GT, I think. There should be... It looks so pretty.
Meanwhile, 7th place in that same class, that's Kevin Santana and Alex Ellis. Remember, Ellis is a bit out of order right now. He got turned around early in this race. Go ahead.
Great racing between these two right now, Ellis and Santana. They go down the straightaway before. He looks to the inside as they head down towards the heel of the boot. Up towards turn 9. Santana has a nice run off there. Let's see if Ellis is able to gain up through the difficult turn 9. Down through there they go. Gets right near the bumper. Has to get off a little bit to make the corner nice and smooth transition. Up towards turn 10. Still not close enough. Just great racing between these two.
Go ahead.
Ulmer is all over Tinsey, but I mean, I could butt in all over the place.
Contact!
Bite my tongue.
Ellis makes contact with Santana out of turn 11.
Billy Smith is spun also. This was even a little bit before that.
Wow, actions happened everywhere. There we see Billy Smith. And after that happens, we might want to jump back to Jesse Lyon as well. So watch Smith first, but Jesse Lyon just had to take a tow. Here's what happened to Smith. Going up the hill. Oh, just a little bit of curb. Turned it around. Wow, who was that narrowly got by? Frightening moment wherever that GTE was, and he was stuck where he couldn't get the car turned around. Look at that. Oh, and I think he got DQ'd maybe.
That was Jeffrey Ooms who made the move. Jeffrey Ooms avoids the
trouble.
Wow.
Billy Smith, you're not allowed to go backwards on track too far, and that's exactly what he did. The stewards decided to take him immediately to the pits. He is out of this race. Scott McGarvey's main threat is no longer there.
You can breathe easier now.
So in a bizarre set of circumstances, as we watch Ulmer try to overtake Tinsey. Say I'll get to my other point in a second. Is Ulmer going to have a go down into the inner loop? He's taking a look. Tinsey's covering him off. And no move for now. But I mentioned that Lyon DNF'd. Well, it was also right there in almost the same spot. Coming up the S's, the car got loose and just plowed into the wall.
I'm telling you, I use this phrase a lot, a jaywalking mailman, but Ulmer has been all over the back of Tinsey. Right, left, right, working both sides of the street. Michael Young has the best view in the house. My gosh.
Oh, we got some more scheduled stops. I think Carter Kundinger has entered the pits. So has Sheldon Rosenbaum. This is in the LMP2 class. None of our top drivers in that class have come in for their stop yet, so these must be the guys looking for a little bit of an alternate strategy. Coming in early, risking getting caught in traffic just to get themselves a little bit of clear track in case they were fighting anyone within their class. Maybe they saw themselves coming up to a lot of interclass traffic and decided now is as good a time as any to come in.
Do not need to go there. I'm just going to give a verbal shout out to Jason Lundy, who's now up into P2 in the LMP2s, and also Scott Booth now on the final podium spot.
Starting to see some strategy play out very nearly to the halfway point in this race. Just 33 minutes left to go, and what is a 60-minute race. Up to our leader in the LMP2, Scott McGarvey, now has a gap of 9 seconds. The next car down, which Bill just mentioned, Jason Lundy.
Yeah, no battle for second or third. McGarvey with 9 seconds, and DeVries in the LMP1s with about 7 seconds.
Tell you what, I did not expect DeVries to start to run away with things the way he has in the championship. It suddenly shifted in his favor with his first win, and he has not looked back. Homer's not giving up on Robert Tinsey. The number 23 having to watch his mirrors a little bit now as we ride on the rear wing of the Big Cheese.
Ulmer is really aggressive when there is traffic. When it opens up, he doesn't quite, he races a little bit more consistently. You know, not that far behind these guys. We haven't really mentioned it, but Brandon Gracia, there I got that name out, sitting back there in 5th overall in class.
Absolutely. It's been a good run for Brandon in the number 911. You see him climbing the hill now. Looking through the field to see kind of where everything else sits now that we've got just a little bit of a breather. And as soon as I say that, Ulmer is regaining on Tinsey at a rate of knots. It's fascinating to see who uses the battery win on these cars. It certainly seems to make a huge difference on when passes happen.
Now they come up, Patrick Fleming trying to get out of the way. Oh, Ulmer's going to get trapped.
Yep, not willing to try and risk it, taking his time, just biting the bullet and taking the penalty and the time, just waiting behind the car instead of taking a risky move behind them, though.
Fleming.
Yeah, Patrick Fleming nearly found the walls.
Well, Mike Young was in a hurry because Gracia was coming. That battle for 4th is right there, nose to tail.
Yeah, and Young didn't expect him to go a little bit wide. Now, there was no contact, but Fleming lost it when I guess that car rushed up behind him so quickly. Here we ride on board with Young, looking back at the car of Guardia. Speaking of these walls, let's see if we could have the chat settle a debate that we have here in the booth. What color are the walls in Watkins Glen? Because we have a few different opinions here up in the announcer's booth. So back to the racing. Still watching from Mike Young's rear wing. And look at him just stretch away with a great run off the 90. Oh, and Ulmer. Oh, wow. Ulmer was almost pushing Robert Tinsey through the inner loop there. He was right underneath his rear wing. I looked over at the gap and it said 3/100ths of a second. I thought for sure he was making a pass.
Well, he was trying to look to what would be the inside entering and then decided to back out of it and followed him right through. I think Ulmer's faster. Oh, I think we're going to have a pass right now as they are stuck behind Ellis. Ulmer will have a run. Oh, but he gets checked up. He has to lose his momentum.
This almost feels like a brand new Ulmer that we're seeing. Well, and look at that. He gets the second opportunity. He waits for the safe pass and just breezes by Robert Tinsey to get himself into second place. Oh, as he just about throws us away, going wide at the exit of 9. He has flirted with that grass. He's going to have to pay for some turf replacement after all is said and done.
I expect him to pull away now. Look at these. These guys are going to come in and pit. Tinsey, Young, and Gracia all come in nose to tail. Big Cheese, you race by yourself.
Cheese stands alone, Bill?
Very nice.
All right, so DeVries comes to his stall ahead of these guys with a healthy gap. He shouldn't really be jumped. Waiting patiently for them to get tires and fuel. Oh, and who was that missed his stall? Was that Young? Oh, no.
Should also mention that DeVries also pitted from the lead, so Ulmer's actually going to be our leader for a little while.
And they are in there for a while. DeVries is now out. Oh, but he narrowly misses a big accident. Can we get a replay?
Wet boom. DeVries has no idea how close he came to getting punted.
We might want an onboard of DeVries looking back off of his rear wing, because watch this from above here. Rosenbaum just mind his own business, nobody around, takes the 90, suddenly finds it going wrong. There's our leader, or who will be our leader, zipping by before he throws it away in the tires. And this was on DeVries that we saw this incident. Then we're looking at our leader, Ulmer. Oh, there we go. Swapped a little bit late. I know DeVries and Ulmer's cars look pretty similar. Confused our cameraman for a second. Speaking of Ulmer, he is in the pits now.
Question is, how will this play DeVries should get him easily. The question is Tinsey, Young, and Garcia. Where do they play out?
Yeah, I'm curious as well. DeVries. Oh, another driver to just have to back up a little bit. Those tiny mistakes make a big difference. So DeVries goes by. Brandon. Ooh, it's going to be close between Brandon and Ulmer. I think Brandon's got him by look at that. Just a few car lengths. The battle is on. But important for Ulmer, he jumped Tinsey and all that.
He sure did. Tinsey and Young, who I thought would be part of the mix, they're well back. Garcia now in second.
And with apologies to Taylor, we have completely missed out on some action happening in the GTEs. What's the update down there?
Well, Giuliano and Stephen McGarvey had decided to be the first front runners to make their pit stops. Surprising, unknown yet of what the reasoning is, but Alex Ellis has taken it behind the wall. So a couple of changes going on right now, but our first front runners have decided to make their pit stops. And still, though, Simonic holds on to quite a very good lead right now, multiple car lengths, as some of the LMP2 cars are working their way by him.
Wow, we saw Simonic battling for podiums and get a win over in the in what was the prototype class, which is now the LMP2s. But suddenly, as he jumps over to the GTEs, who would have thought anybody could take the fight to Jeffrey Ooms?
Yeah, that's my point. Ooms is getting beat. I mean,
in a straight fight, yeah.
Yeah, right.
Lamantra is going to have to reassess things, figure out where he can find some pace to try and challenge the number 250. We see his Ferrari there being overtaken by Rosenbaum, much more successfully than Rosenbaum taking the 90. Don't have any battles up in the top two classes at the moment. They've spread apart now, with most of them having taken stops in the LMP1. Still waiting for them to come in the LMP2s.
As much as I'd like to give you some type of fuel drama going on in the LMP1s, I don't see any. I think I like everybody's stop. They all seem legitimate times, including Brandon Garcia, who really came out the best of that pit stops, going from fourth to second.
So we didn't talk a whole lot about attrition in the pre-race. I didn't think that it would be a huge issue here. But looking down the order, out of our 45 starters, we're missing McLeish, Topich, Green. We're missing Stacy, Smith. Wilson is out of the race. Lyon is gone, as well as Alex Ellis. It's quite a few drivers here before the, well, as the race is just halfway over now. Watching Robert Tinsey sitting in that fourth position. He's got Mike Young still working on him. We've talked about Tinsey lacking pace. We've even talked to Tinsey and his lack of pace. He's mentioned away from the car when in the forums that he just hasn't quite figured this out. He's almost regretted jumping up to them, saying he thinks he maybe should have stayed in the HPDs in the LMP2 class.
Oh yeah, he's untouchable in that machine, but he likes a challenge. He'll get it figured out. The season's not even halfway through yet.
Love this camera angle. Dougie gives us some of the coolest cars.
Cool. You know, I got to give you this interval because DeVries is being ran down by Garcia. And it's not just traffic. Garcia's really doing it.
Oh, we've got some major pit stops happening in the LMP2s. McGarvey and Lundy, first and second, have both come in. Booth continues on. He'll inherit the lead momentarily. You see McGarvey heading back out. This is his best chance we've seen yet for him to take his first win ever in the series.
Had to elbow his brother off the track to do it, but that's okay.
Lundy with a bit of a long stop, a very long stop. Did he speed in the pits, maybe? It comes out at about 30 seconds. Should be. Nope, he's longer than that. Oof. The number 4, something is really wrong. He's got some damage on the front. Oh, and he's exited. Oh, no.
There you go.
That would have been a great podium for Jason.
Uh-oh. Garcia must have had an issue. The gap is huge now. Let me make sure I'm getting... Nope, never mind. Never mind, nope.
Well, meanwhile, Romagnolo and Hunter, who have both taken their pit stops, battling for P8. That should change once the cars ahead finally take their stops. They're waiting for still quite a bit of the field to come in.
Yeah, those are some of the highest front runners other than McGarvey, who's in front of them right now, but they've been battling it out, these two, as they go down into turn 11. Romagnolo still trying to find a way to get by him. Gets a nice run, hugs that inside line at 11. Down the front straightaway they go to make their run down towards the 90. Let's see if Romagnolo is able to maybe get on the brakes a little bit later on than Hunter. Oh, yeah. Both of them get through nice and smooth. Wow, but gets a little time.
And the last 2 corners, though, Hunter's been so far away from the apex, he'd have to send it mail. He is very much under threat and is going to have to get himself a little bit tighter if he wants to keep Romagnolo behind him. He's going to have the draft, but I think he's going to run out of track before he can attempt to pass.
Yeah, Hunter would have to make a major mistake for Romagnolo to get by right now before they hit the inner loop. Here we go. Right on the bumper he gets. Up towards the outer loop. Looks to the inside. Nope. Hunter decides to hit the apex this corner as they track out towards the chute and enter into the boot.
Gulf liveried Porsche dealing with the pressure pretty well so far. Not giving an opportunity to Romagnolo quite yet. Canadian just going to have to sit and wait for an opening, and it doesn't happen right here. Oh, still can't get it done.
No, he just couldn't get on the brakes hard enough right there as they enter in out of the toe and into the heel of the boot. I think Romagnolo's not going to be close enough to make a pass right now.
Oh, and Robert Tinsey and Mike Young having to deal with traffic has allowed Young to close in even more. They get by the cars of Simonik and Kundinger, able to continue on, but now they've got Matt Owens up ahead of them.
You talked about Tinsey just not feeling it. Young is really coming. These guys are trying to stay with Ulmer. Ulmer's up by about 3.5 seconds.
Looks like another podium still likely for the Big Cheese here. 20 minutes left to go on the clock. Let's stay on this battle, but looking at the timing, we've now had 2 second-place drivers DNF in the LMP2s. So Scott McGarvey now has 18 seconds over the next car back now that pit stops are done.
And Garcia from second place was trying to run down DeVries. He just put the right side of his car in the wall, banged it really hard, still out there racing.
I wonder if Scott believes in karma, Bill, because after all of his podiums, after all of his close calls on trying to get a win. Oh, and Mike Young off the track, and did he hit the wall? I think he just missed it. Let's look at the replay. You talk about the save that we saw from Andra earlier. This is going to tie with that for incredible hands.
This one was 90 degrees with the direction he should have been going.
Not sure what happened here. This looks similar to what happened to Jesse Lyon. The car just suddenly broke loose on him. Wow, cut through the grass, but car didn't get damaged, so that's the good news.
So Tinsey can breathe a little easier.
It's such a weird place to lose this car with the intense downforce that it has. I can't, maybe it's the batteries kicking in. They get on the boost button, and that is just so bizarre that we've now twice seen LMP1 cars break loose in the fast entry to the S's. Down in the GTEs, Shane Hunter was in a battle, I thought, and I guess that's broken up because he's now coming to the pits.
Yep, Shane Hunter decided to break off the battle that he had going on with Huff and Romagnolo. So let's see what he can do now with this pit stop, see if he can get a little strategy going on.
He is in and out. We're basically waiting on just a few of our GTE cars to come pit because Mike Young after that scary moment, and Simonik is in as well. That's our leader and the GTEs. But Mike Young has come in for some spare pants.
Jeffrey Ohms also comes in. Let's see what Paul Darling does. He's a little bit farther back from these two. He's just now coming out of turn 10 and into turn 11, so Ohms and Simonik have a lot of time to spare right now. Paul Darling decides to stay out this lap.
Haley does not. He comes in. So seeing a number of front runners. Once we get all of these GTE cars in and out, we'll run down the top 5 of each of our classes.
I'm telling you, I don't know why, but Garcia is chopping off times on Debris. It's now down to under 3 seconds. I don't know if it's Debris just minding the gap or what, but Garcia is just coming. I've seen Garcia put the car in the wall, and he's still coming.
Bill, I'm surprised you haven't gone to your favorite topic.
No.
Does he need to save fuel?
Because I'm looking at the numbers. I don't see any reason why that would be, but it feels that way.
The other possibility, I mentioned it earlier on the broadcast, the cars are sensitive to damage, and it's not just the aero of the car, the aerodynamics, but we've seen drivers lose the battery or lose battery performance by taking bumps or curbs too hard. So maybe Jason DeVries has lost a little power.
Well, just to emphasize that point, Mike Young had to come in for an extra pit stop after he took his car through the grass. We thought it was okay, but clearly it wasn't.
Meanwhile, watching this battle between Hill and Huff, this is for 7th position and the GTEs. Huff just recently overtook Dave Hill. As car behind them goes way off. That's Ross Booth. We just saw a flash of trying to recollect it in the grass. Thankfully, did not hit anything.
And Sayandra running last, and the LMP1 just put the car on the wall just for good measure. His day is done now.
Poor Sayandra.
Nope, we don't need to go there, but that's it.
Last of our GTEs has hit the pit lane. Where is Darling going to come out? It's got a ways before Haley gets to him. I think he should return in 3rd. He's coming down the pit lane, but it's a long ways to the end of it, and Haley's just coming off the final corner. I may eat my words here, Taylor. Is this going to be a battle for the final podium spot?
We'll see what happens. See, Darling's coming off pit road. Haley's now entering the 90. We may have a battle here. Haley still has a lot of momentum on. Up through the S's, Darling still holding on. He's got his teammate of Emmanuel right between these two. So let's see what Emmanuel might do for his teammate.
Got a gap of 2 seconds between themselves now that they get up to speed.
Yep, as they go down the back straightaway towards the inner loop. Riley Haley's got his eyes, sees him pretty much his rival of Paul Darling now as they go out of there towards the outer loop. Haley's going to look to the inside now of Emmanuel as Sayandra goes by.
Once he gets by Emmanuel here, looks like he's going to get him now that he pushed that car a lap down. We're going to go through our top 5 of each of the classes, get you up to speed with what's happened in this race. Jason DeVries started it in 2nd, and it seemed like he was going to have a good battle with Sayandra, but Andra's mistakes cost him.
And let's stay on this for a minute because he's got traffic to get through, and this is allowing Garasi, who's right behind him, to close it up even more. Sorry to interrupt your play-by-play, but there he gets that done. Well, now you can go back to Garasi because he's got the same issue.
Yeah, held up just a little bit as he had to split them, but there's our 2nd place driver, Brandon Gracias. Bit of a surprise here. Started in 5th. Didn't really think that he'd have a pace for the win. But, like Bill said, he's been chopping time off, lap at a time. Behind him, John Ulmer. He took 3rd last race in Road America. Another American track. He tends to like these. Well, he looked like he might get his 2nd podium in a row. Robert Tinsey, about a 1.5 seconds back from him. Looks like Bob the Blade has fended off most of the drivers challenging him, so the worst he probably will do is 4th unless he has a major issue. Mike Young, oh boy, that extra pit stop hurt. Thankfully, it only slotted him down to 5th because we have such a small field in the LMP1s. That's our top 5 in that class. Let's go to the LMP2s.
I'll do this one, Joe. You interrupt me when Garcia makes the pass because he's got it down to under a second now as he runs down to Reese. Scott McGarvey, he's got, oh my goodness, 24 seconds on Ross Booth. Scott having a great run. Only disaster will keep him from winning. But Booth has to be careful. Only 1.5 seconds ahead of Carter Kundinger, who's kind of inherited that third position. Carter doesn't have much to worry about. 7 seconds back to Mark Schindel. And then finally, rounding out your top 5, it would be Alan Haysback. All right, now let's go over to Taylor for the GTEs.
In the GTE, it is still the number 254 GT of Alex Simonix, pretty much in his own zip code, pretty much, leading the entire race. Right behind him in the number 97 is Jeffrey Ohms, having a clean race, running P2 pretty much the entire race. Nice run for the Team Bushfink driver. In third place in the 155, is Paul Darling in his Ferrari. He's been quietly running his way up through the field. Nice run for him today. And in fourth position is Bradley Haley in the 428 Ford. Just finally working his way up through the field, starting inside the top 5 all night, running here. And then rounding out your top 5 will be that number 1 of Stephen McGarvey. Had a little bit of issues with his brother early in the race, but looks like he was able to recover. One of the first drivers to make his pit stop, and was able to recover nicely, rounding out your top 5.
Meanwhile, we got a battle a little bit farther back in this class. Dave Hill and Ryan Huff have not been able to get away from one another. The battle heats up yet again down the front stretch. Huff is the car in the orange and white you see behind him in red and blue. It is Dave Hill closing in on him down into the 90, looking for the run off the corner. I'm not sure that he's got enough of one, though.
He does not at the moment, but as I go up through the S's, let's see if Hill is able to get a good run through there. He's closing the gap just a little bit. As I close down the back straightaway, this is the time to utilize the giraffe. Nice run for Hill. Let's see what he's going to do. He's closing in, looks to the inside towards the inner loop, decides to duck right back behind. Tap on the brake a little bit early. Through the inner loop they go. Nice run for Ryan Huff through the inner loop as they go to the outer loop now. Nice run for there as we have lap traffic or lap leaders of the LMP1. He backs off a little bit.
That's DePratt. He's not fighting anybody right now, so he can wait patiently. He sees that this is a battle most likely and just wants to do as little as he can to interrupt. He'll split them momentarily. Wants to go around the outside maybe. No, stays in between, ducks under, and lets them continue their fight.
Yeah, these two Fords have been battling pretty much for the last few laps by themselves for the most part. They are trying to close in on Roman Yola, but he's still a few seconds ahead of them, but still within sight.
About 3.5 up the road. Let's stay with this for now. We don't need to change the cameras, but I can report that Jason DeVries must have been watching his F3 finally, because he's turned up the wick.
I just listened to the broadcast watch to make Soup look bad, because, yeah, he has definitely opened it up.
Right on board now with Hill. He continues to chase. Well, as close as he got, he continues to drop off.
Let's go to P9. Booth just got hung up behind a lap car of Haley, and that opened the door for Kundinger, who made the move.
Wow.
Carter Kundinger up to second.
Advantageous stuff. Let's take a look at the replay of that pass. Remember, Kundinger started this race, I believe he was in third in class, was he not?
He had been coming, and Booth got stuck behind Haley, and he lost all of his momentum, and Kundinger knew it. Went around Haley, then ducked to the inside, and got the pass up to P2 for Kundinger. Nice run.
Carter's trying to carry his form. He took his first podium of the season last race in Road America. I think he's going to take another one with a second place here today if he can keep this up. Brandon's closed down on Jason now. Is this just the ebb and flow of traffic, maybe?
No, it's DeVries just making the commentators just bothering us.
Hey, he's trying to make it exciting to the end, right?
He is. It's back down. Now, Garcia had it under a second. He'd had it down to single digits for a while.
And Mole and Scott battling for 9th in the GTEs. That's Scott on the outside, chops off Dean Mole down into the heel of the boot with only 7 or 8 minutes to go. He is certainly getting a little aggressive.
Yeah, but it looks like Mole's not done yet. Gets a little loose out of turn 9. Here comes Syandra again as they go down through turn 10. Nice run for both of them. Mole gets a good run off corner exit through turn 10. Down into turn 11. Let's see what he's able to do.
This is the critical one. Wow, great exit.
Great exit. He looks to the inside now. Side by side they go. Down the front straightaway up towards the 90. Who gets on the brakes first? Looks like Scott gives way, giving Mole P9 as Mole starts to pull away. Let's follow this battle a little bit more as they go up to the S's. If Scott is able to utilize the draft coming out of here. You can get a little bit of a draft to this S's to help get that good run coming off. So let's see what he can do. He gets a nice run through the S's right on the back bumper of Mole. Looks to the outside, not close enough to make a pass.
He's got him. Garcia is there now. Traffic got to DeVries, and now he's only 4 car lengths back and within striking distance.
Yeah, so apologies to fans of Mole and Scott there, but right now Brandon Garcia has chopped it down with a chance to attack on Jason DeVries, the driver who's led most of this race. The number 911 is trying to see if he can sneak by to take his first victory in this series.
I think DeVries is faster when the track is clear. I think he's being really careful going through traffic, and Garcia has taken lessons from Bob the Blade because he's flying through. He gets hung up a little bit there behind, that's a J-Ray.
Down into the first corner once again. The opportunities are running out. Even though they run quick laps around here, it's still about a minute and a half for these LMP1s to get around. About 4 or 5 laps to go.
Oh, he's got a good run.
Great run. What can he do up into the inner loop? DeVries responds, gets on the power a little bit, uses up that battery, keeps himself safe through the inner loop.
Clear track for a while.
Good news for Jason. Bad news for Brandon. Down into the boot section of the course one more time. Up next is going to be Haley and Darling. Those two are fighting for position, but thankfully spread far enough apart that shouldn't be too much of an issue.
Oh, it's all a matter of timing. It's a matter of when DeVries catches them. And heading into the boot, this is a technical section. He's got to get lucky. Out of the boot now through 9.
Ooh, and this is a place with a lot of short straightaways. Is this going to be enough? DeVries gets by easily. Oh, I think Brandon got held up quite a bit coming off the exit of the penultimate corner. That gap was down to 0.3. It is back up to 0.6. Across the line with 4.5 minutes to go. Back up the hill. We are down to 4 laps left. He's got another head of steam. And once again, Jason DeVries starts to pick up the pace partway down the straight once he sees he's under threat. Garcia has to settle for second for yet another lap through the inner loop.
He's really good, Garcia, really good through the S's. Just can't get that run to the inner loop that just runs out of tarmac before he has to make that play. Down into the chute now.
At least you don't have to worry too much about battling. It's 5 seconds back to John Ulmer. They've got a decent gap. In fact, Ulmer probably more worried about Tinsey behind him, as those two are less than a second apart as well. We'll stick with this battle for the lead, though.
They are coming up on a battle for 33rd position between Slenka and Pfeiffer. It gets sorted out.
Yeah, I can't imagine these guys are going to hold them up too badly.
I don't know.
This is a battle for the overall lead. Sklenka's going to stay to the side. Much better timing for Brandon this time. And not so good at timing coming through the second half of the corner for Jason DeVries. Oh, but the last corner way wide trying to go around Jimbo Pfeiffer for Brandon. 3 laps to go now. Can De Vries hold him off for a hat trick of wins?
This is where he's really good. This is where Grossi has been really strong.
Once again, not strong enough. I feel fairly convinced that this is De Vries just watching and waiting, saving his battery until he sees whether he's gaining and getting on it when he knows that he needs to just hold him at arm's length. Boy, it's gotta be frustrating, like trying to chase someone down in football and being given the stiff arm. Just right there, but can't do anything with it.
Oh, got pinned that time.
Yeah, that was Mark Schindel not doing any favors for Brandon. Ooh, and they got a lot of traffic coming up. This is Jeffrey Ooms, Lionel Duprat, and Alex Simonik that they got ahead of them. Once again, Brandon just not catching cars in the right place down through the second to last corner. We got to stay with this fight. Apologies to those a little bit farther down in their classes and battles, but for the overall lead with only a minute 30 to go. Wow, look at how aggressive De Vries is now.
Putting the toothpaste back in the jar.
And that gave him a huge gap over Brandon. It is now 1.3 seconds, but we got to go to Tinsey because, oh, Tinsey actually just made contact with John Ulmer coming down the straight. He had a good run on him and had to back out of it at the last second as Ulmer went defensive. Wow, weaving through traffic now. Look at this. Oh, and Ulmer almost getting into the GTE car there. That was Simonik. Things have not abated because Tinsey follows him through. It's still 4 tenths between them. It is still 1 second between our leaders, so they have spread apart slightly. So we watch from on board Bob the Blade, the TNT Racing Gold driver, looking to get himself back onto the podium against his old rival. Clock may be ticking down close, but De Vries still has one more lap to go. Brandon, can he catch him? Oh, and look at behind them. Here goes Robert Tinsey on Ulmer down to the inside of the 90. Does Ulmer try for the over-under? They do that while slicing through traffic, but Tinsey's got it. Or does he? Ooh, over the curb, almost loses the car and has to back out of it.
Had a head of steam and nowhere to put it.
Hard to know where to put our eyes as it is.
Brandon closed in a little bit on De Vries through that outer loop. He had a little bit of help from the lap traffic. He gets hard on the brakes.
Oh, and the battle for the lead is almost side by side. Brandon Guardesia trying desperately to steal this win away from Deep Freeze De Vries. Just a few more corners to go. He is going to have to push like hell to take this one away.
Oh, he got him! Did he miss a shift? Is he out of fuel? They're side by side. He'll have the preferred position. He makes the pass for the lead.
Makes it stick. Can Jason come back at him? Brandon Gracia now has track position. Very few passing zones up ahead of them. Into the penultimate corner. The 911 car made the pass on the last lap. And as he comes out of the final corner, give the win to Brandon Gracia. Wow. Where are our other leaders? Simonik is the next one.
Yeah, Simonik just going into 10.
Taylor, this is going to feel good for Alex for sure.
Yes, indeed. He did like what he did at Road Atlanta, led from start to finish in dominating performance. Alex Simonik will pick up win number 2 here, as we got some cars flipping over down in the 90.
And Bill Scott McGarvey, with all of the races that he's just kind of been there and just taken the podiums, not really had the pace to challenge for the win, who would have thought that his first one would be this dominant?
Oh, he was just tiptoeing around Ryan Huff, and Dave Hill didn't want to get involved in any incident there. As he takes it into 10. Yes, indeed. My goodness, when Billy Smith ran into problems, it was all McGarvey.
Scott McGarvey emulating his brother finally by taking to the top step of the podium, coming around the last corner in the LMP2 class here in round 5. It's going to be Scott McGarvey in the number 64 to take the win. Great stuff in all 3 classes. That's going to wrap things up for us. We're going to take a quick break here on the Global Sim Racing Channel. We'll come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews. But if you watch on the screen, you'll see all the upcoming races here on the GSRC. Welcome back to Watkins Glen. We continue to see surprises here in the Autobahn Motorcar Group Sports Car Challenge, especially in the LMP1s. Brandon Gracia, Who would have thought that he would take the win today? We'll have to find out what happened to Jason DeVries, because he finished in second behind him by 0.8, being passed on the final lap of the race. Robert Tinsey was in a good fight of his own. He did manage to come away in third, having a battle with his old rival, John Ulmer, who finished in fourth. Still a good result for John considering the start to his season. Mike Young took a 5th place finish. Obviously, he had to take an extra stop, which put him well down the order. And then Lyle Dupratt finished a lap down in 6th, with 7th place going to Cy Andra. Let's go to the LMP2s.
Scott McGarvey goes ahead and gets the win by a comfortable margin, almost 30 seconds. We saw Carter Kundinger get around Ross Booth for second. Booth has to settle for the final podium spot. Mark Schindel, Chris Pence, Alan Haysbeck, and Sheldon Rosenblum fill out the rest of that class before we get to the GTEs. Kevin?
Winning in your GTE class will be Alex Simonix, followed by Jeffrey Ooms in second place. Both of those two running 1-2 all night during the race today. Paul Darling will come home in the 3rd position in class, followed by Bradley Haley. Stephen McGarvey will round out your top 5 in the GTE class. Ryan Huff and Dave Hill, those two have been battling all night between 6th and 7th position. Giuliano Romagnola will come home in the 8th position in class, followed by Dean Mole and Samuel Scott. Rounding out your top 10, Shane Hunter will come in 11th position in class, followed by David Henry in 12th, Lee Peterson in 13th, Paul Lindsay, good run for him in the GTE AM class, in 14th. Emmanuel Igiri will come home in 15th, followed by Matt Owens will come home in the 16th in class, followed by Kevin Santana in 17th, Jimbo Pfeiffer 18th, Robert Schlenka, Mark Kradowski, and Alex Ellis will be one of your DNF drivers, followed by Patrick Flemings, Dale Green, Dino Topic, and Tim McLeish will be the rest of your field.
And with that, we have our winner ready to talk to us. Brandon Guarcia. We'll have to make sure and get that name from him to see what he has for that. So, Brandon, you managed to win, but with a last lap pass. Do you have any idea what was happening with Jason? Because it seemed like he had better pace than you for most of the race, and then suddenly you ran him down.
Oh, for sure. I think I just caught him sleeping. Cy was in my ear the whole time telling me to use 100% boost throughout the lap, and that was it.
So this is, I believe, your first win in any class of the series. Is that correct, or have you won in another one?
I believe this is my first win.
That is fantastic. This has been such a strange season. This LMP1 has thrown up all kinds of results so far, and we've watched you drivers debate about how to get the best out of it in the forums quite a bit. Do you feel like you're starting to get a handle on it now?
I just do what Cy tells me, basically. I'm just one of those guys you plop in the car and just go.
So to settle things, because we keep kind of switching a bit on your name and we're not entirely sure, how should we pronounce your last name?
Gracia.
Gracia. Okay. So next up, we are heading out to the track of Mosport, which is known for being the most chaotic. And this season has been even more than one in seasons past with the difference in speeds. Are you at all afraid heading over there?
Oh, yeah. It's going to be brutal.
I don't doubt that. We're going to have our heads on a swivel to call that race. Congratulations on taking your first ever win. Let's hope that you can continue form.
Thanks, guys.
That's Brandon Guarcia, who took his first win. And believe up next has been a long time coming. Bill's going to talk to the winner, Scott McGarvey.
Scott, congratulations. This one was yours to lose, and you had a great race. Nice job. Congratulations on the win.
Oh, thank you very much. I mean, there's a lot of luck involved, and with Jason not showing up, I mean, just did what I could.
Well, on the way to doing it, I don't know if you know this or not, but I believe you elbowed your brother off into the grass.
Yeah, it seemed like there was a bit of net code there because I didn't feel anything. He said he didn't really feel anything, so I don't know what happened there. Okay,
so I guess you guys will have equal amounts of cranberry sauce at the Thanksgiving dinner. Then there won't be any arguments over that. You know what? My goodness, buddy, I don't want to jinx you, but you are in the championship hunt for sure.
Yeah, I'm trying not to think about that. I'm just taking it one race at a time right now.
Do you actually consider just, you know what, if I can't win, I'm just going to bring this car home, give myself seconds and thirds and fourths the whole season?
Yeah, I mean, this is my first season driving this car, so I'm still learning a lot. So it's just personal goals, trying to get better each race, really.
Well, can't do much better than getting a win. Congratulations on picking up your first career win in the Autobahn series. Good luck down the road.
Thank you very much.
There you have it, our winner in LMP2s. What a humble winner.
Yeah, a little soft-spoken there. Driver who also is on a little bit of a tear is Alex Simonik, taking the win in the GTEs. Taylor's going to talk to him.
Caught up here with Alex Simonik's win number 2 for you here at Watkins Glen. Alex, dominating performance. Tell me, how did the car feel? How did just your race went for you?
I did a lot of laps during IMSA, and unfortunately I had a connection issue during the broadcast, so I knew the track very well. I had a setup from the new team that I'm on trial for, and everything just clicked.
Well, excellent job. So, Alex, we're looking forward to going to Mosport next week, or in 2 weeks' time, over the border in Canada. Are you looking forward to maybe continuing this momentum to move on to win another race, or are you just hoping just to get through it with survival?
We're always looking to win, but the reason why I switched to the Ford is we're looking to do SEO and the upcoming special events in the Ford, and also it seems like the rest of the tracks on this season do favor the Ford in some way. Mosport's going to be kind of scary because how quick the LMP1s are and how short the track is, so I think there's going to be equal amount of time spent looking in the mirrors as there are looking ahead.
Yes, indeed. We're going to be looking forward to you running in the new manufacturer with the blue oval of the Ford. Alex, congratulations again on your win, and we'll see you in 2 weeks at Mosport.
All right, thank you.
That was our winner in the GTEs. We have second place in the LMP2s ready to talk to us, Carter Kundinger. Carter, well, you saw the likes of Billy Smith fall by the wayside, and then we saw I believe it was Ross Booth, another one that was in second place, fall by the wayside. Were you a little bit worried inheriting second place that you'd be next?
Yeah, I mean, that was just a crazy race. I mean, it all started off right at the beginning. I just kind of got knocked off right before the start-finish line, and I dropped all the way down to 10th. I knew right there it was going to be tough to come back, but yeah, I mean, I just kept running and just hoped that I'd just keep picking off spots, and all of a sudden Sheldon dropped and Billy dropped, and there you have it. And I'm all the way up in second place. So yeah, that was a race.
Certainly was. Obviously, Scott was incredibly far ahead pretty early on. Did you kind of settle yourself in thinking, all right, let's just consolidate second? Or did you think that maybe there was a chance you could try and do something to run him down?
I knew just in the practice and the qualifying sessions, Scott, Billy, and then also Jason Girard, they've always been the fast ones. They've always been at least a half second quicker than me at almost every single track. So usually my goal going into each race is just to finish and then hopefully get a top 3 so one of them falls off. But yeah, I mean, they keep me on my toes, that's for sure. I try to push every single lap just to see if I can even get close to them every race. But
well, then the question remains, I guess. You've got now 2 podiums in a row. When's the top step going to come?
Hopefully, Joe. I don't know. I mean, God, I started off really rough, and finally I've managed to put up some podiums. So I'm just hoping to keep the podiums. If a win comes my way, that would be perfect. But I mean, if I can just keep the podiums going, hopefully that can put me up towards the top of the championship towards the end of the season.
Absolutely. Well, again, congratulations on a second place, and we look forward to seeing you at Mosport.
Yeah.
That was Carter Kundinger, second place in the LMP2s. Sounds like he's just having fun with his racing right now, not really thinking that a win is on the cards, just aiming for what he thinks is reasonable. But that said,
she's just trying to celebrate his second place, and then you put the pressure on him to get the win. It's like, hey, God, you're like the wife, you get the new coat, and she says, "Oh, it looks good, but you're fat,"
Listen, they don't pay us for softball questions, Bill. You gotta
Okay, all right.
you gotta
Close
put the
those up
screws to
then.
them. Yeah. All right. So we are going to close up today, and a big thank you to the Autobahn Motorcar Group for sponsoring another season here in the AMGSC, as well to John Ulmer and his team of helpers behind the scenes who helped make sure that the races go off, who finally got the pace car out there today for the third time this season. Thanks to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcasts that are listed on the screen. Additional thanks go to Eric Ekholm and June Lalonde, who provide our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of their great work. Thanks to the team today, Bill, Taylor, Sean, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. You can check us out on social media on Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. Don't forget, if you head on over to our YouTube page and hit that big red subscribe button, you won't miss a moment here on the GSRC. We're over 7,000 subs by now. Can you believe that? Our next race, we mentioned it. If you're going to miss one, don't let this be the one. Mosport has put up some of the most insane races you've ever seen in the Autobahn Motorcar Group Sportscar Challenge. That'll be Monday, October 15th at 9:15 p.m. Eastern. That's 2 weeks from now. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. However, until next time, race clean, race hard. See you on the track.